Good morning, afternoon, and evening, CSS Nation. My name is Harry Mullen. Today is September 19th. Sorry to say I do not have a show ready for you to go today. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to be replaying our old podcast that we showed, episode 2, that Pernell and I had brought on a past student of ours to interview us for questions that she had. And I will be online to look at comments and to be able to answer them as the show is going. Now, please note that this show is pre-recorded. Not me right now. I'm live. But the show that I'm going to be showing you is pre-recorded. But again, I will be live watching the show along with you, and I'll be able to answer any questions in the chat box that you might have. Also, be sure that if you see the notification, you got the announcement, be sure to click on the link that gives permission for StreamYard to be able to post your name. Otherwise, when you're typing a message, please each and every time put your name so I know who it is that I'm responding to, because if you don't, we just see you as either a YouTube viewer, Facebook viewer, but we don't actually get to see the name. And without further ado, let's go ahead and start the show. Well, thank you everybody for joining the show today. It is the 21st of the month, and we have some good content that's going to be coming up today, next week, and to follow. The host of our show of CSS Nation is Pernell Husband, and myself, Harry Mullen. Now, not too long ago, I posted on CSS Nation group in Facebook to ask questions of, what kind of topics did people want to talk about and hear us talk about. And so we had a student of mine named Angel who went ahead and posted, and we thought it would be nice to actually switch things up a little bit. Normally, hosts will interview a guest, but today we're going to have the guest be the interviewer. So she's going to interview the interviewers. And so I'd like to welcome Angel Jimenez to the show. Hi, Angel.
Hi.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So Angel, you had some questions for us that you wanted to ask us. So let's go ahead and get started.
Yes, I did. Thank you. So I'm somebody who I've just completed my course, and like Carrie mentioned, he was my instructor. And so now I'm, a little bird getting ready to leave the nest. And so my questions pertain more to starting out in the field. And so the first one would be, of course, in order to get the job, you have to interview for it. So what are your best practices or, things to keep in mind to do during the interview?
Very good question. And of course, because I started off the show, I'm going to go to Pernell to go ahead and kick us off on the answers first.
Absolutely. Well, Angel, once again, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.
I am probably more nervous than you are. So as far as interviewing, there are a couple of things that we always tell our students to keep in mind when they go in for the interview. They're very basic. Everyone should know these, but not everyone does. So when you greet the person that is going to interview you, you always want to have eye contact. Nothing too creepy, but you want to have eye contact, right? You're presenting yourself for the very first time. You want to leave a lasting impression, and a firm handshake and eye contact is always a good way to start off an interview. The other thing is, we always recommend that you don't take your seat unless the interviewer asks you to take your seat. It's always a good idea to let them sit down first, or to have them have you take a seat.
Okay.
Once you take that seat, your posture becomes very important, obviously. Again, you're presenting yourself for the very first time, and you want to leave a lasting impression. Eye contact, a good firm handshake, and good posture, we think, is a very good way to start off the interviewing process.
Those are great tips.
Yeah. In addition, you have to remember when going on your interviews is that you only have that first impression in order to leave a good one.
Right.
So it's very important to make sure that you dress appropriately for the job. I've seen individuals come in with logo T-shirts and stuff and jeans, and so as you remember in class, I tell people, ladies, gentlemen, now you don't want to get into a suit or anything, where you're business attire when you're interviewing for a tech position, but you do want to wear a dress shirt or a blouse, black pants, or for the females, a skirt, a black skirt. So dress for success, dress for the job that you're wanting to go for. For sterile processing, we're not going for housekeeping. We're not going to work in the kitchen. So it's a technical and a professional field being in sterile processing. So again, remember that first impression. All right. And then also, I mean, if you've gone to a good school, they should be able to prepare you with kind of like a script, what to expect when going into the interview. I think that's very important to kind of practice ahead of time, know what you're going to say. And then what's really important is that when you go on the interview, have fun. Don't go in with any expectations that I have to get this job or something like that.
Right.
Know that everything that you're doing is to gain experience. Know that they can't take anything away from you when you're going on the job interview. They can only give you something. They can either give you a good experience when you're going through the interview, so future interviews kind of what to expect, or they can give you the job. So, and then always go back to your instructor if they offer this service, to talk to them about what the interview was like, something that you felt uncomfortable about, whether it was a question that you had difficulty with. Go back to your instructor and kind of review that with them.
Right. That's really good to know. And I like the part about the posture too, because that would show that you're confident person, candidate for the job.
Absolutely.
Before your next question, I would just add, there's certainly nothing wrong with smelling our best, but we always try to tell people, less is more when it comes to cologne and perfume. The person that's going to be interviewing you, you have no idea what their sensitivity level may be to whatever it is you're wearing. So less is always more. It's a good idea. Again, remember, we may be talking to people that have never interviewed. Brush your teeth. Use mouthwash. You do not want to walk into somebody's office and completely turn them off.
Right.
That's the way to not get the job. So remember, the hygiene is critically important.
Yeah, one of the things I do, instead of putting on cologne when I'm going on a job interview, I actually have a really good deodorant that I use. It's called a Secret. It's not just for women. I get the powder fresh, and so I put it underneath the arm. I also put it on the chest. And
where do you put it, Harry? You put it under the arm? Is that where you put it?
The arm and on the chest and stuff. So that becomes my perfume so to speak. So that way, definitely.
Angel, you can't get this
smells
advice
like I'm
anywhere
shower
else.
fresh. So.
Shower fresh, rain fresh, powder fresh.
Yeah,
that's the secret. That's the secret.
That's the secret.
And it's not too strong.
Yeah. I never thought about the chest part, so. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's a guy thing. You can put it behind the ear. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next question.
Moving on to the next question. Okay, so having gone through the interview with these great tips, most of the time there's a probationary period in which I would assume, this is something obviously really important in this industry. So what are things to, be cognizant of during the probationary period so that it's successful and that you're going to be officially offered the job?
Well, there is so many things. We've done research on this in the past. When you're wanting to pass probation, and this one site that actually Purnell had let me know about. There's probably about 10 things. I'm not going to go through them all, but like the first one, you want to make sure that you're working hard. So when you first start your new job, you don't actually know that much about it. You don't know what to do. So you have to pay attention to the training process that you're going through, the inductions and instructions, and what priorities there are, and so it's going to take a few weeks in order to get your bearings and stuff and know what's going on in the department and stuff. So, now not everybody, but some people are already workaholics, and therefore, they can't give any more than what they do because they just put 110% in. But that's not generally everybody. So one of the things that you can do is once you start to feel comfortable after a couple of weeks, you want to slowly make sure that they're seeing that you're being more and more productive as you go along. All right. Second thing is never overstep your mark. In other words, know the difference between becoming an outrageously productive newbie or an outrageously annoying know-it-all. Some people, especially coming out of school, they've read the book and, they see things that are not necessarily what they learned in school.
Right.
So again, you have to learn your surroundings and be careful of what you say. Now, it's always best, instead of telling somebody, hey, well, that's not what I learned in school, it's better to ask questions. Why are you doing it this way and stuff? So the thing you have to remember when you're starting a field, you want to make sure that you understand that your primary role after getting that job is to pass probation. All right. And the last thing you want to do is be annoying.
Right.
You don't want to be annoying. That's for sure. None of that.
That's definitely for sure.
What are your thoughts, Purnell?
Well, so let's start out with what is the probationary period, right? It's a period of time that the employer has to basically check you out, to see whether or not you're going to be a good fit for that organization. It protects the employer from bringing somebody on who is going to cause havoc and mayhem. They want to see you in the real setting. They want to see how you communicate. They want to see how you work. Kind of makes sense, right?
Right.
So it's that period of time for them to check you out. It's also your opportunity to see whether or not this organization is going to be a good fit for you, right? The people that you're going to have to work with, what kind of manager am I going to be dealing with? You should be looking at those things as well. This is your time to evaluate them as well. So you have a huge job during this probationary period. First of all, you're trying to get this job, right? and you're trying to determine whether or not this is the place for you. So there's a lot going on. And I would say that's probably the simplest strategy to employ during the probationary period. Work hard, communicate professionally and effectively with people around you. Don't be late during your probationary period, right? Be there on time. And I think those are some things to really keep in mind. You're evaluating them just as they're evaluating you.
Right. That's a great insight.
Yeah. And also learn to take the time to learn from others, you know. So be sure to ask questions and be appreciative of any help, advice that somebody gives you, you know. So don't expect to know and understand everything right away. You know, it took me probably a good 3 to 5 years before I really felt comfortable in my role as a sterile processing technician.
Wow.
And I'm not talking about my role as doing the job, you know, learning the cleaning of all your equipment and the instrumentation, the assembly of them, sterilization, picking cases and stuff. You know, that happened probably, you know, pretty quickly within the first 6 months to a year. The rest of it was that getting to know the nuances of dealing with the other departments, your customers and stuff. So, you know, you have to make sure that, you know, you understand what those expectations are going to be, you know, what's going on. So take the time to learn your surroundings.
Okay.
And know and understand the probationary process. Ask questions. How long is it? How am I going to be evaluated? What are the expectations that I need to meet during this process? And finally, when do I know that I have the job?
Right.
What are you going to tell me? So the key to remember as well, Angel, is to go in, you want to know what the expectations are, right? If you want to win the game, you have to know the rules to the game. So find out, have that communication. I really want this job. I really want to do well during this probationary period. So please tell me and be very clear about what expectations you have of me. Make a list of those expectations, right? Again, you want to win. Know the expectations, understand what the probationary period is all about, and you want to hear it from the manager.
Right.
All right.
You also need to make sure that, you know, communication is going to be key. All right. You want to make sure that you're communicating clearly, professionally, especially if there's something that you don't understand.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with asking questions. And nobody expects, you know, a new employee to understand everything when they're first coming in.
Right.
So, again, communication is going to be key. You know, another thing, understand the company's policies and procedures. One of the first things that a lot of companies, you know, there's the company I worked for and Purnell worked for a period. I worked for Kaiser Permanente for 23 years. And the very first thing,
good old Kaiser.
The very first thing they did my first week is they sat me in the office and they handed me the policies and procedures for the facility and for the department. You know, so you have to understand those policies and procedures. And, you know, don't make the mistake I did when I first got into the field. I just kind of perused the policies, read through them a little bit, but, you know, I didn't really memorize them. It took me some time to, you know, and I kept asking my manager, you know, well, what's the policy on this? And so she would just put me in the office again, hand me the policies and procedures and tell me to look it up. And finally, I woke up and was like, oh, okay, yeah, the answers were already there. So again, understand your policies and procedures.
And again, going in, you're not going to be aware or know all of the policies and procedures right away. But there are going to be some policies and procedures that that manager or supervisor will share with you, some very critical ones. And it is your responsibility and obligation to make sure that you follow those policies and procedures, and whatever other regulatory and compliance issues that they may have shared with you during the orientation process. Very important. So a lot of times, people use the orientation process when you first going to the hospital and you get that job to kind of sleep, hang out, talk to people. But there's some very important information that's passed during the orientation process. Some of it will be of a regulatory and a compliance nature, and they will share some very important policies and procedures having to do with how you interact with employees, having to do with behavior on the job, having to do with breaks and lunches and that kind of thing.
Right.
You want to make sure that you're following those to the T.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like
Bernard
that.
touched upon it a little bit about your attendance. And you actually touched upon it again, but in a different aspect. So your time attendance, pay attention to the time when you arrive at work. Make sure that you're always showing up on time, if not early. And time attendance when it comes to when you go on your break and coming back from break, go on lunch, and when you're coming back from lunch. Because when managers see that you are going on break and you take an extra 5-10 minutes to get back, or you go to lunch and same thing, you're taking extra time to get back, they notice that. So you have to remember that the probationary period is not just the opportunity for the manager to determine whether or not they want you to stay in the department. It's also an opportunity for you to decide whether or not this role fits you in not just sterile processing, but are you a good fit for the company, or is the company a good fit for you? Because you could be a good fit for companies, but then the culture in the department could be not what you're looking for.
And I'll give you a real world example. Things that I did as a manager or as a director. I would talk to one of my leads. Hey, so how's Angel doing out there? Well, she's doing okay. So what's she like? What's her attitude? She seems pleasant. She seems, she's talking to people. So those conversations obviously are going to be going on.
Right.
Especially with the manager who's engaged and who's a good manager. You're going to ask people that you trust and about that person. Remember, you're under scrutiny the whole time during the probationary period. Right. Everyone that you come into contact with is a potential evaluator. So that needs to be in the center of your mind.
Yeah, that's a good thing to remember when you're going into work. Everyone else around you is evaluating you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
She curses a lot. Her breath is bad. All of that comes out. It does, right? It's normal,
he wears
right?
deodorant on his chest.
She must not know the secret.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny. That's good. You're paying attention to what's going on during this interview of us, and that's exactly what you do. Take those tools of learning and going into the department and stuff.
Right.
So before we go on to the next question, Angel, it's now time for a quick commercial break.
Okay.
So everybody, we'll be right back.
The job market right now is, I feel, much better than it was even when I went in. As the result of the COVID pandemic that we've had, Our profession has been even under more spotlight and given even more of an opportunity. We're infection control, we're infection preventionists, and breaking the chain of infection and destroying viruses is our job, and it's what we're trained to do as professionals. That field is going to keep growing and growing. The sterile processing field is a great way to come into the hospital setting. Again, you're coming right into the operating room.
Well, we're back, and I want to thank everybody for staying with us. Again, we have Angel Jimenez, who is a past student who has graciously agreed to come on to be the interviewer while Pernell and I ask or answer her questions.
Attempt to answer the questions.
You know, so we have another question or two that Angel wanted to ask, and so
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah, and actually, you both kind of touched on it a little bit as far as like the first 6 months. So that's a big question on my mind a lot as I'm, going to embark on this process is, what can I expect on the job for those first 6 months? What things would I experience? What should I be looking out for? The whole picture.
You want to take that, Harry?
That is a loaded question. So, as much as, we don't want to scare anybody away from this field, there's a lot of positiveness that can take place. And there is some negative, So, when you first go into the department, depending on, again, goes back to culture. And, I'm not talking about ethnicity or what people have learned
Right.
in, from their communities and stuff, but sterile processing definitely has its own community. And so it all stems from the manager. What does the manager, what are they portraying? And, the staff pick up on some of these cues. So, when you're new in the field, you can, sometimes people will expect more of you and not realize, especially, somebody brand new in the field, they're going to, why aren't you picking it up real quick? You should be able to do this. Yeah, you went to school. And the reason being is because often, actually how I got into the field some 33 plus years ago, they didn't have a school to teach us this stuff. You were hired off the street. And so you had to learn everything. And so it was really daunting to try to pick up something that you didn't even have a basic concept. But nowadays we do have schools, and we do have, so we have the books that talk about the standards and the different sections from decontamination to prep assembly, sterilization, case picking, high-level disinfection. And so sometimes the staff will, expect more of you when they really shouldn't. And again, the culture can be such that it's not a positive one. Knock on wood. I've actually been at many facilities that majority of them are very positive and stuff. But you have to be aware of the fact that you can walk into a bad situation where people are not necessarily nice. So just be prepared for that.
Okay. That's very good to know.
Good advice. I think on top of that, you can and should expect some confusion. You're just coming out of school. You've been taught things by the book. You've been taught best practices. And you're going to go into a situation where people have been working in this field for, depending on the size of the hospital and, that kind of thing. There could be people that have been working in the field for 25, 30 years. And so they've been used to doing things a certain way. You're going to work with people who have not had the benefit of going to a formal class.
Right.
So there's going to be some confusion. You're going to see some things happening a little bit different to the way than you were taught. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
All you new people out there, don't be freaked out by it, okay? So that's gonna happen. And there's ways to deal with that. If you see things happening that you have questions about, or you think they may be inappropriate, don't approach that person that's doing it. Talk to your supervisor, talk to the person in charge, and just explain to them, what's on your mind. Hey, I was taught to do it this way in class, but I see people doing it this way. That's going to happen. The other thing is, obviously, we all know this, right? Personalities. You're going to start to learn people's personalities. You're going to start to understand who to stay away from. This is the real world, right? You'll start developing, who can I go to for help? Keep that in mind. Who's nice? Who's approachable, right? So you want to start in your mind cultivating certain people that can help you along your journey. You want to keep in mind. And depending on where you end up, it could be very technologically advanced, or everything could be pencil and paper.
Right.
Right? And I think you want to start cultivating the key personalities that you think would work for you, right? They're going to be people who are like, I don't teach, I don't do that. And they're going to be people who be like, Mija, come on over here. This is the way you do this. This is the way you do that. Got you with that one, huh?
Yeah.
But that's the way it's going to work. Yeah. There's a lot of that happening. Yeah.
Okay.
So, also, because generally most probationary periods are going to be between 3 to 6 months. Most of them are at least 6 months. Even up, I've seen a few facilities where they're 1 year. They're about a year long. So you have to understand that you want to use this probationary period of time to learn everything you can about the company, about your role, in order so that way you're able to ensure that you are able to fulfill the expectations that are put upon you, but also make sure that this is the right environment for you. Again, there's going to be negativity, so you have to be prepared to be able to deal with that. And if you find that it's too much, don't be afraid to start looking for another location. If in the beginning it looks like you're jumping from facility to facility, at some point, once, let's say the fourth employer that you're interviewing at, they're like, well, we've noticed in the last year and a half that this would be your fourth facility that you're potentially coming to work for.
Right.
And so the thing is that how you answer a question like that is that, it has to do with the culture.
They weren't a good fit.
I'm looking for a company that not only do I fit with them, but they fit my expectations as well.
That's right.
And unfortunately, the employer themselves were great, but the coworkers did not meet my expectations. They were a little bit, harsh and not understanding that I'm new to the role. And so that's why you see me jumping around. Don't try to deflect it and say, well, be honest about what your experiences has been. But when you're doing that, never bash the actual employer that you're leaving, or the previous employers, because that can be interpreted as being a negative thing.
Right.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, especially in sterile processing, there are tons of hospitals. So you really get to choose where you want to work. And there's enough stress in our lives. There's enough stress in the world. Who wants to go into work in a stressful environment?
Right.
So like Harry said, yeah, you know what? They weren't a good fit. There's if that manager that's interviewing you wants to know more specifics, support is always a nice key thing to put out there. There wasn't enough support for new people, right? that kind of thing. One of the other things I wanted to put in there before we moved on was during this first 6-month period, make it one of your goals to learn those instruments. Learn the instruments, learn how to inspect them appropriately during that period of time. You should master, you should know the key sets that are used the most in that department. You should have those down within that 6-month period.
You know, in addition, there, again, because of the culture that you could be faced with within the department, you're going to want to show your social side. All right. So you need to make sure that in some way that you're bonding with your peers. So that way, you know, because believe it or not, it is a type of family. If you end up staying with the employer, you'll end up spending more time with your coworkers than you do with your own family.
Yeah.
So you have to be
very true.
You know, so periodically, you know, they might invite you to lunch, or you might want to invite them for lunch. So, you know, so that way you can get to know each other. You know, I personally am not the type of person that while I'm working on the job, I don't like to talk about personal stuff while on the job. But during break time, during lunchtime, you know, that's the time, you know, to let down the hair, so to speak, on my behalf. But, you know, you want to find the commonalities, you know, because everybody's different. But if you can find something that you have in common with your coworkers, you have a better opportunity to be able to create that bond with them and to be able to create that social structure that you yourself, even though you're the new person or anybody listening to this this episode, you know, that they are learning to create a team. You know, just because you're new in the field does not mean that you cannot set the standards of what it is that you're looking for and what and how to create a perfect team. All right. In addition, so you want to, part of that being sociable, you want to smile. Not too much, all right? They don't want you to go, you don't want to look crazy or something like that. But pardon my language, but you know, I want to say this because this is me. I go through a department and sometimes I have to have a smile on my face. I know people can't see it, but right there, there's this little line that when I'm just normal and just relaxed, I have that resting bitch face. So, you know what I'm saying? So I have to overcompensate by walking through with just a smirk or a smile. Hey, everybody, I'm always in a good mood, that type of thing, you know. So you want to smile, but you don't want to go through, you know, because then they're going to go, that person is crazy, you know. And then ultimately, don't sabotage yourself. All right. Remember that you have your probationary period. You understand why you're there. There are some sort of people that they sabotage themselves, you know, and you know, you don't want to get sacked from the job. And so part of what you got to do is you got to listen. Again, learn the culture, learn what's going on, what are the policies and stuff. And, you know, just never forget, you know, how your behavior is going to affect your future. All right. So that's, I think that's, you know, pretty much on as far as, you know, what I have to say. There's so much, I mean, we can literally go on and probably talk for a complete hour.
Sure. Yeah.
I wanted to add to that the social aspect that Harry mentioned, which is very important. You want to know people and you want to get along, and the way you do that is by having relationships. And also hitting on sabotage. Sometimes people come into a job and in their effort to want to be friendly and to want to know people and that sort of thing, they end up sharing too much too soon,
Mhm.
or they don't think about what they're sharing. And then very early on, you know, the die is cast, the concrete gets hard. They see
Right.
you this way. Oh, I'm a this, or this is my religion. Oh, I voted for this person.
Mhm.
You want to, again, be sociable, obviously. You want to communicate clearly. You want to be friendly with people, but you don't have to let them completely in.
Right.
That's okay. Because again, there's a lot of push button issues and lots of young technicians, to use a word that Harry just expertly used, sabotage themselves. They set themselves up for failure because they share too much,
Right.
and sometimes they share it too soon.
Mhm.
You don't have to share everything, right?
Right.
And they don't realize they're doing it. That's the sad
Yeah.
part,
Mhm.
because nobody sat down and talked to them ahead of time. And that's what I really love about this show is that hopefully, we're going to be touching upon subjects that people have heard. We're just going to give our insights on it, but we're
Mhm.
also going to touch upon subjects that people probably have never heard, or those some have heard, but for others, it's their first time actually hearing it. And
Yeah,
so,
we're just gonna give you game.
yeah. So I mean, it's what that's why Pernell and I are here. So it just want to for anybody who, by the way, who's interested in what we can do, because the great thing about having Angel on, and the fact that Angel is a student of mine, is that we offer mentorship, to our students. That's part of the course. But we also, because we have a consulting side of the company, we also, we offer mentorship for people. So
Absolutely.
anybody who is wanting to know more about that and the cost of what it, because nothing, if you're watching our show, you get it for free. But we're pretty reasonable, but you can call us for more information. And the number's at the bottom of the screen, of course, at 951-468-5330. And you can set up a quick, call. Chance of what it's going to do, it's going to take you directly to a voicemail. So nobody's going to answer the call right away. Just leave your name, your telephone number, and the best time to reach you. Let us know where you're at in the country, because we're on the West Coast, but somebody from the East Coast. So just let us know according to which area of the country you're at. So if you tell us to call you, it's 7:00 at night. We're not calling you at 10:00 at night, because we're calling 7:00 from our time. So, I just want to put that out to the audience and stuff, that we are here for you. So
I'll give you an example of how our mentoring services work, Angel. Let's say, for instance, that you've been a technician in the sterile processing field for 10 years, and you've been thinking about going into management for some time, but you don't really know how to approach it. You don't know whether you should take classes or not. You just don't know how to navigate this and where to go. We provide expert advice and direction on how you can get from where you are now into that manager's chair.
Yeah.
How can we do that? We've been in that manager's chair.
Mhm.
We've been in that director's chair.
Yeah.
We've helped people to get into those chairs over the course of our careers. So that is a service that we're very proud of. If it's a service that we believe many more people should take advantage of.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we do, and we do a really good job of preparing experienced technicians to take that next step up.
Well, that's exciting to know. It definitely makes me feel 100% more confident in the decision I made by, taking courses CSS, that, to know that it wasn't just, my time with the course and getting ready to take the exam, and then that was it, and then you let me go. But knowing that this is a resource that I'll have, during my career in sterile processing. So that's very comforting to know.
Well, you know what? I'm going to switch the tables now, Angel, on you. We brought you on to interview us, but I have a question for you.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit behind your decision making. Two questions. Why did you choose sterile processing? And what led you to come to Central Sterilization Solutions, choosing us as your school?
Well, I chose sterile processing because I, in some sense, sort of fell upon it working in a dental office. I was the office manager, and we had hygienists, and we had our RDAs, and I wanted to find more ways that I could be, more well-rounded and more help to the office rather than only just being the manager. And so I asked the assistants a lot, what can I do to help? What can you show me? And they were gracious, and willing to answer every question and show me step by step. And one of the things that they got into teaching me was the sterilization, breaking down the operatories and getting them ready for the next patient, making sure everything was, the way that the doctor liked it. And I found it really interesting. And I, any opportunity I could help them, I would do that. And what was rewarding was that, if we were really busy, and the girls were kind of running around stressed out, thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't clean the room, it's not ready for the next patient, I would say, oh, you know what, I went in there and I already did that. I took care of all of that for you. So it was just really fascinating to me. And then I learned that, that there are some dental offices that actually have people who that's their only job. That's what they do. They prepare the operatories, they do the decontamination, the cleaning, the sterilization, the whole process. Rather than being a dental assistant, that's their primary job. And I thought that's really fascinating. So when the time came for me to really think about what I wanted to do next in life, I did what everybody did. I went to the internet and did a Google search, and I started looking at some programs that are here. I'm in San Diego, and one of the very first programs that I looked into and talked with the counselor, I learned that the program was $16,500 and it wasn't even here in California. So I thought, that's an awful lot of money to pay for a course. And at the time, they weren't sure that the course was going to be starting in the spring. Then there was another program that I went to, that their course was about $19,000. And it just didn't seem very cohesive to what it was that I wanted to do. I felt like I was being deterred to do something else. And so that didn't really interest me and didn't excite me. And so as I continued my research, I found CSS. I reached out, and one of the things that was striking to me was that almost within an hour of me leaving an inquiry on the chat window, I got a call back. And so I thought, wow, that's amazing, that there's that sense of urgency. And all of my questions were answered right away, and the conversation was focused on the course I wanted to take, and I didn't feel like I was being diverted at all. And I was just excited just at the fact that like I said, the sense of urgency that was there, and just I asked my question, I got the answer that I wanted, and it just it made me feel, okay, this would be a good step for me. I was sad to learn that there wasn't any in-person classes, of course, with COVID, but overall I was really happy with the decision that I made. And the funny thing is, and I'm not sure, Harry, if you know this, but when I started my course with you, you had already been 3 weeks into the new class, and so I think because I already had some sort of working knowledge of sterilization and instruments and things like the autoclave and the ultrasonic, I think that kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage there. And I remember Catherine saying to me, okay, well, you've got 3 weeks, to catch up. And by the way, the class is on Tuesday, and this was like Friday, the Friday before the class. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I have the weekend to, learn everything I possibly can to get right up to speed to where everyone was in the class. But even with that, Catherine was gracious to, express the textbooks to me so that I had everything on Monday for sure, so I was fully ready and could follow along. So that was another thing that made me feel really good too about the course. But it's also the options that were provided was something that I didn't hear from the other institutes that I looked at. And if you're curious, the course that was $16,500 was from Pima Medical Institute, and the course that was $19,000 was from UEI. I liked the fact that, if you wanted to take the course, CSS made it possible for you to do it, financially. I saw that there's an option you can, take the class and do a financing program, which I think is really great. Sometimes a lot of people make their decisions, based on cost. That's something that I've seen in the dental field. A lot of people will say, okay, well, I'll get, this implant crown, because I can't afford it, or I can't do that, because I can't afford it. And I thought that was really, really great. And it wasn't something that was immediately pushed upon me when Catherine called me back to say, oh, you have a question, let's talk about financing you and getting you enrolled. So it was just, along the way, there's always options that were presented. And that's something that's really important to me and that I look for, in just about anything, but especially a program where I'm looking to do a career. So that's kind of my journey and how I got here. So, and I was lucky enough to have Harry as my instructor.
Well, I think actually, I think CSS is lucky to have you as a student. And so, one of the things, the difference is, you talked about the $16,000 one course, and the other school was $19,000. And this is for sterile processing. Other places in California, and I'm not afraid to use their names. We have Glendale Career College, there's Premier Career College, and American Career College. And one of the things that people should be aware of and be careful of is that if you inquire about the sterile processing program, be very cautious, because what they're going to do, I've had students who joined our school that let us know that what they tried to do is switch them over to their surgical tech program. And of course, the minimum cost usually for that is going to be about $32,000.
Yeah.
And that's just an awful lot of money to be saddled with and having to worry about having to pay. One thing I think that separates us from the rest of the competition, and I really don't feel that they are competition when it comes to sterile processing. Number one is the cost. I heard you again saying $16,000, $19,000 for the course. For us, I feel that the price is very reasonable. It's $2,500. We do offer a payment plan. We partner with a company called Sweet Pay, so that students can finance it and over a 3 to 5 year period. So oftentimes their monthly payments are about let's say $50 to $70 a month. Which is a lot more affordable than some student programs. And and then if we have students that their credit is really bad, we're talking about the low 500s or below. Yeah. And so one of the lenders on Sweet Pay, they'll still finance you, but unfortunately, got to be careful. Don't just right away say yes, I'll do it, because sometimes they can charge a high interest rate. But if that happens, we have a second alternative where we can do in-house financing. We do that on a case-by-case basis based on what lenders have offered, but we're not wanting to turn in, a $2,500 bill into a $6,000 to $11,000 bill because your credit was, really bad. But we have other alternatives.
Right.
So the other thing I think that sets us apart is the fact that, other schools offer help with resumes. Now, we're not going to do all the work for you. What we do is we have the students set up their resume and then send it in to us. And then we modify it in order to make sure that the recruiter in the human resource office looks at your resume and they immediately feel that you're a qualified candidate. So long as you're certified and you have a good resume, I'd say 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the interview. Once you come to the interview, assembly and inspection, sterilization, and ultimately case picking the individual case card for a patient's procedure. So when we script it out, so and you're prepared. So based on the bookwork that you've done in our class, the script, and when we're not in a COVID situation where you're able to get your hands-on experience along with this script, you're going to be prepared more so than any other student from any other school. And the last thing that we have is we have a tutor that is awesome. And for those of you who don't know Ken, he was actually started off our show with that little commercial that we had. And so Ken, was kind of in your situation, Angel, where he he was done with the particular line of work that he was doing, and he was looking for something more. And he did his research and looked at a lot of schools, and he chose us as well. And he was one of the students that, before COVID, decided he didn't want to do his hands-on experience. He was ready to go get a job, and he went out and got a job. And he was phenomenal enough that he started his own study group when he was in school. That I ended up hiring him as our tutor, and phenomenal in preparing students to be able to pass the course, as well as, more importantly, preparing you for the certification. So, Angel, if you haven't met him, after the show, I'll make sure you have his contact.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
And the thing that I find most impressive about him is that within the first 18 months after being hired as a technician, the hospital down in San Diego hired him and promoted him to a supervisor position. And that's probably the quickest I've seen somebody advance in this career.
That's awesome. Even better to know he's here in San Diego.
Yeah, he's a little bit north, but he's in San Diego County and stuff. So
awesome.
But I will definitely pass on that information to you to make sure that you're again, all our students have access to them. We talk about I talk about it during the course and stuff. Unfortunately, like you said, you started the 3rd week, so the very first class, where it had his information, you didn't get it, but I'll make sure that you get it. So, Angel, I want to thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful. As a matter of fact, it has been so good, and I feel that you probably have more questions. So, if you're open to it, I'd like to invite you back on for the 28th. And let me just check my calendar real quick just to make sure that, it'll be the 28th. I'd like to invite you back on to go ahead and answer some more questions to us.
Awesome. I would like that. And I'll have questions.
All right. So again, Angel, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you.
Right. All right. We'll see, and we'll be talking to you next week.
All right.
Well, folks, that's it for the show. You didn't need to hear the very end of what Pernell and I had to say. what you can do is you can go to our YouTube station and at Central Sterilization Solutions to go ahead and catch that episode and any other past episodes anytime you'd like. All right. And with that, I will see you next week. And my partner and I hope to have a wonderful show ready for you. And would like to say coming up next month is CS Week. And it's going to be October 10th through the 16th. So for all of you sterile processing professionals out there, happy CS Week coming up. I want to be the first one to say thank you for the hard work that each and every one of you do by going into sterile processing. The truth of the matter is, and a lot of people don't realize it, that each and every one of you are the true infection preventionists in the hospital. And with that, I just want to say for future episodes, we'll be back.